Thank you so much, Beth. Thank you so much for that generous eulogy. Beautiful. And good morning, friends. I do want to say, what we're trying to do together, sometimes it feels to me like it's raising a family, right? We want all these clean energy industries to mature and go off and prosper. And, solar and wind are, out of high school, out of college, off in the world. Heat pumps are maybe middle school. I think EVs just going into high school, maybe. But one of the successes is really institutions and agencies like you're all running, the CCA sector, that is really matured. And I really want to compliment you, Beth, for helping the industry and this whole sector scale to the point that it is now. I remember when CCAs were a crazy idea, a science experiment, and then in 2010, as Mark mentioned, PG&E ran a nearly $50 million campaign to make it much more difficult to establish a CCA, and that was defeated. And now here you are, 25 CCAs around the state. You really represent the future, and let's give it up for you and for Beth for the incredible leadership. Incredible. So I want to walk you through a little bit of some of the highlights, what's happening in California energy, and just begin with, this was on Tuesday, was with the governor and the crown prince of Norway, who was in town. We signed an agreement on offshore wind. I was in Norway in June. I've developed something of a crush on the whole country of Norway. They're at 95% of new vehicle sales being electric. They just built the largest carbon capture project in the world and the largest floating wind project in the world. They've electrified 80 ferries, and I'm talking about fully electric. These are not small ferries. This is full-scale commercial ferries. It takes 7 minutes to disembark all the passengers and for the next group to get on. The ferry fully recharges in that 7 minutes. It goes off for 2 hours. So we're now doing that in California. The first procurement of electric ferries, which will be 5, is going to be bought this July. The Energy Commission's going to be investing $5 million in the charging infrastructure. But it felt like going about 15 years into the future, and it's a beautiful future. Walking around Oslo, we talk about noise, the air pollution and climate pollution, but the reduction in sound pollution from having all the vehicles be electric is huge. And so this is the future we're going to build for our state, and because we're the 5th largest economy in the world now, when we do it, it spreads. So just a real affirmation of the future we can build together. So I want to begin with this. My wife is Chinese. My kids went to Chinese school, and I was just always struck by the word crisis in Chinese, weiji, which is just 2 other characters put together, danger and opportunity. And I think that, we have to remember there's always opportunity inside every crisis, and it's especially true inside the climate crisis. We have the chance to create something beautiful and powerful and lasting in this window that we're in now, which is the first generation to fully recognize the threat that climate change poses and the last that can actually take action about it. So here in California, we're building a future that flows through the electric grid. We're all in on that. We're at 61% clean carbon-free electricity on the grid today. Alternative energy is the wrong word to use to describe renewables. Fossil is alternative, and we're going to hit our target. So we have a mandate, as you all know, to get to 90% by 2035, 95% by 2040, and 100% by 2045. And we are absolutely going to get there. We're also helping spur the decarbonization of the grid nationally. And remember that the solar industry was born here in our state, right? The very first utility-scale solar project in the world, first rooftop solar systems in the world, the first wind project in the world. And we did get these guys to graduate high school and college and go off and prosper and now win. And so we retired more coal under the last 4 years of Trump than under the last 4 of Obama because of cost. So most of the generation being added to the grid nationally is clean. Most of what's retired is fossil. And so we're winning actually nationally as well. But a quick tour of what's happening in California. I love this proverb. The people who say it can't be done should get out of the way of the people who are doing it. So this is the Desert Sunlight Project. It's been around now for 10 years, but just a great example of the innovation. When I visited this site, just over the course of construction on this one 550 megawatt project. All this innovation happened. They used to do the piers with a concrete footing, much more cost effective. They transitioned to doing vibrating in the steel pier. Half of the modules on this array had frames. Halfway through the project, they figured out how to get rid of the aluminum frames. This is a fixed tilt project. Of course, everything, as you know, is now gone to dual axis horizontal tracking. All this innovation happening just over the course of one project and really paving the way. We're also home, as you know, to the world's largest geothermal power plant, the geysers, and not far from us right now, the world's largest solar rooftop in the Apple headquarters. I had major building envy doing that tour. And the world's largest battery storage project. We're adding a colossal amount of battery storage and basically have built 10 gigawatts in the last 5 years. Okay, so let's just pause for a moment on that. That's more than 4 Diablo Canyons. And it's working. It's working. The lights are staying on in large measure because of that. It's an incredible success story. Costs are coming down. Lithium-ion prices went down 14% last year, and we have a lot more of this coming. We're also doing wind, as you know. This is the world's 3rd largest wind project here in California. And of course, the impacts of wind as we repower are very significant as well. This is a great site, the Vasco project, which replaced 432 of the smaller turbines, did the repower, and installed 34 new turbines that provide 3 times the power, but hugely reduced avian impacts. And where all that electricity is going is incredibly exciting as well. So we have 36 long-range electric semi-trucks operating with a 520-mile range in California out of the Modesto Pepsi facility, and more to come. And charging getting larger and larger. Next week, I'll be dedicating the opening of the Tesla charger network. We've been working hard on that. Ford and Rivian are now in. GM's being added this week. And then by the end of Q4, we'll be at every single non-Tesla EV eligible to charge on that network. 6,000 Tesla fast chargers in the state, growing to 16,500 over the next 2 years. In the height of the crisis, to the point of the Chinese word for crisis again, this is September of 2020, worst wildfire smoke I've seen in my life as a native Californian. We never had wildfire smoke here in the Bay Area. We had one day, as many of you may recall, where the smoke was so thick that the streetlights went on. And my kids got sick, my wife got sick. But in the middle of that, the governor did the boldest thing he's done on climate, in my view, which is absolutely transformative, signing this executive order to get to 100% zero-emission vehicle sales being electric by 2035. He was mocked and laughed at. They're not laughing now, all right? We have gone from 8% of new vehicle sales being electric when this was signed to 25% today. We have more charge plugs in California than we have gasoline nozzles, and we're the first state in the United States where the best-selling vehicle is an electric vehicle. We're adding 1,200 electric vehicles a day, which has benefits for rates. So altogether, EVs contributed $1.2 billion to the rate base in 2023. We project that number to grow to $3 billion in the next 2 years. And that's a big part of what we need to do is actually help get more electrification more quickly. We did hit peak gasoline consumption in 2019. It jumped down with COVID, but then has stayed down. I think that's important. Note, we are on the downward curve with that, and electrification, as it ramps up, is going to help even more. And of course, light-duty ZEV sales continuing to climb, and we expect ZEV sales to surpass internal combustion vehicle sales in 2028. Going further upstream, a big area of focus for us is Lithium Valley. So we're really blessed in many ways to be in California, but the lithium reserve in Southern California, for those of you who haven't looked at it, it's an amazing resource. So enough lithium to supply 375 million electric vehicles. We're funding the lithium development there. And if you think of lithium as sort of the oil of the clean energy future, this is the greenest way by far to produce lithium. So it's, of course, powered 100% with clean geothermal energy. And the footprint, right now, most of the lithium in the world comes from 4 countries. It's Chile and Argentina, where it's evaporation ponds, and China and Australia, where it's hard rock mining. To produce 20,000 tons of lithium, if you do it from South America evaporation ponds, you impact 30,000 acres. From hard rock mining, 3,000 acres. From Lithium Valley, Salton Sea, 30 acres. So really small footprint, really green process. And we've now created a lithium tax, so there are revenues from that that go to support local schools, roads, bridges, and other local priorities. We're also seeing a ton of great innovation. This is a great company. These guys are down in San Diego. Beam, that makes a tracking solar device on a 12,000-pound ballast plate that just drops in with energy storage. You don't need to connect to the grid, don't need to trench, don't need to permit. It can plop in a parking space. You have power even when the grid goes down. So all kinds of great innovation happening around the electrification space. We're spending a lot of time as well on offshore wind. This is a major part of our energy future. The scale of the turbines is massive. So one rotation of a turbine powers 2 houses for a day. We have, particularly in the North Coast, one of the best resources in the world, and it's actually producing power in those late afternoon, early evening summers where we really need it. So as solar is going down, offshore wind is strong. And we have now done the first lease sale in 2 sites, 583 square miles, and those are now in the process of getting through all the work and getting put together. So a really great milestone. The 20 miles offshore, so those setbacks help a lot with avian impacts and visual impacts and so forth. And it's a floating wind technology. Beth, as she mentioned, we were together seeing this. When you visit a floating wind project, one of the things you realize, you can't tell it's floating. They're tethered to the seafloor by 3 high-tension cables, so it's very stable and looks as if it's fixed. So I do want to directly address one of the main critiques we've gotten from people who are hostile to our clean energy vision in California is that, hey, you do this, it's going to be bad for the economy. And when we really started aggressively decarbonizing the power sector, especially 15 years ago, we got hit with that again and again and again and again. So what happened, all right? We were the 10th largest economy in the world, and we passed Russia and Italy and France and Brazil and the UK, and today we're the 5th largest economy in the world. And I think it's really important to push back against this narrative. It's unquestionably been good for our economy. We're getting the majority of US clean tech venture capital coming to our state because of these policies. We have, 50 facilities that are making electric buses, electric cars, EV charging infrastructure here in our state because of these policies. So, a little PowerPoint on it. And the most productive car factory of any kind in all of North America is right here in California. Tesla's making about 2,000 electric cars a day. I love this picture from 1900, Fifth Avenue, Thanksgiving Day parade, all horses and buggies, and then 13 years later, so all horse and buggy and 1 car, and then 13 years later, all cars and 1 horse and buggy. And it's just a good reminder to keep in mind how quickly these transitions can happen. Another piece of the puzzle is rooftop solar. We've mandated at the Energy Commission all new homes have to have solar since 2020 and all new buildings since 2023. We're building about 100,000 new buildings a year in California. The electric home is coming as well. We are going to be implementing the new building code, which will be the first to have a dual heat pump requirement for water heating and for space heating. And that vote is going to happen this summer for our next building code. On the waterfront as well, I mentioned the ferry procurement. The first electric ferry procurement in the United States is happening in California this summer. We also took delivery in California and San Diego of the very first electric tugboat in the world. And then they've also installed the first electric crane. So it's happening in all sorts of other exciting ways. And here in the Bay Area, of course, Caltrain now getting electrified from diesel to electric this year. So I want to just close with it. I think a really good way to think about where we are with clean energy and climate and building the future we know we need to build, which is a future beyond fossil fuels, is to see it through the lens of the story of smoking in the United States. So both my grandfathers were in World War II, and every American soldier, as part of daily rations, you got 3 things. You got food, you got a pack of chocolate, and you got a pack of cigarettes. So a generation of American men came home from World War II as smokers, and it was mainstream. Doctors did ads for cigarettes. Fred Flintstone smoked. President Kennedy smoked. Marilyn Monroe smoked. Some people say they smoked together. Some of you guys will get that. Johnny Carson smoked on The Tonight Show, right? So smoking is mainstream. About half the country smoked. And then this cascade of policies, which is not totally manifest on the PowerPoint like I wanted to, but we got essentially the tobacco industry, when the science came out, smoking causes cancer, their response was to go from manufacturing one product, cigarettes, to manufacturing two products. They manufactured cigarettes and they manufactured doubt. They created a $100 million junk science campaign to distort this basic truth that smoking causes cancer. But eventually, the truth won, and I think that's the take-home message. And it led to this incredible cascade of policies, warnings on packages, cigarette taxes, banning sales to minors, bars and restaurants, and we went from half the country smoking down to 9%. Okay, it's really one of the great public health success stories in our country's history, and that's the path we're on with fossil. Okay, so I wanted to just close with a little bit of an observation about the wisdom of trees in California, because I, like all of you, one of the best parts about being in California is the natural beauty. And it occurred to me as I was traveling around the state, we have here in California the oldest tree in the world, almost 5,000 years old in Inyo County. The tallest tree in the world, the Hyperion tree in Humboldt County. And the biggest by volume, the General Sherman tree in Sequoia National Park. Raise your hand if you've been to Sequoia. Good number of you. If you haven't been, put this on your list. So I took my kids and my wife there a few years ago, and at the base of this tree are these cones that the tree drops, and you open up the cone and there's the seeds, and they're the size of a grain of rice. And I was really moved, unexpectedly moved, to somehow just hold the seed that small and see that it can become something this big and powerful and beautiful. And I do think that's how we have to think about what we're all doing here today, which is planting the seeds for a future that we can be proud to pass on to our children and grandchildren. Thank you so much.